Hi and welcome back. In the last video we went ahead and set up the template that was going to have the fading banner slider inside of it. In this video we're going to go ahead and set up the content on the About page, and specifically we're going to go ahead and set up the image gallery with a lightbox effect. Let's go ahead and take a look at our finished project and we can see what we're going to be going for. If I go ahead and scroll down here on the About page, you can see I just have three simple images right here on this page. And when I click on one of these small thumbnail images, you can see the image becomes larger and the background fades out. And again, this is called a lightbox effect, And in this case, we've got a close button there that we can come back to the page and click another image and it opens up. We also have previous and next options on here to take us forward and back, and we also have some room for a caption, and it's going to tell us the image number right down here. So this is a fairly simple but a full-featured lightbox image gallery tool. Now if you've downloaded the framework, you already have all of the necessary components to set this up. If not, you're going to want to go to Google and search for jQuery image gallery lightbox, and you'll find there are dozens and dozens and dozens of these lightboxes that are out there that you can download and set up on your site. So again, you can get one in my framework, or you can go to Google and search for one, and it will have instructions on how to exactly set that up. So let's go ahead and I'm going to minimize this here, and here's Expression Web, and I'm going to go ahead and minimize this again and go back to my desktop. And if you're working along with the framework, you're going to go ahead and open up the framework folder, and you're going to go into the main framework folder right here. And we're going to go back into the JavaScript, the JS folder, and we're going to go ahead and go into the plugins folder. And the item that we're looking for is Lightbox Gallery right here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on that and copy it, just like we did with the banner slider. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to go into my local site root folder that you've been working in your website, and I'm going to right click and paste that in there. And again, you should already have jQuery installed from the previous exercise. But if you don't have jQuery, you can either get it out of the framework, or you can go to www.jquery.com. That's spelled JQUERY.com, and you can download the jQuery library and install it in your site. But again, if you've already done the banner slider, you already have jQuery installed, and you won't need to go through that particular step. So we've moved our lightbox over. I'm going to go ahead and close this window and bring Expression Web back up. And just like before, Expression Web may not refresh your folder view here. So I'm going to go to View and click Refresh, and I should now see a folder called Lightbox Gallery. Now we need to go ahead and move the individual components for the lightbox into the appropriate folder. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign here to the right of this, and the two items that we're looking for right away are JS and CSS. And I'm going to go ahead and expand the JS folder, and you can see lightbox.js there. I want to move that up into our JS folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that up in there, and I'm going to do the same thing with CSS. I'm going to drag the lightbox CSS up into that item as well. Now, you don't actually need to do anything with these sample photos here. We already have some photos inside of our project images. If not, you're going to need to go ahead and create a few small images that are maybe, let's say, 400 pixels wide by 250 pixels tall. Just some sample images that you can use with the tool. But the images folder that I have right here is actually going to have 5 different graphics in them. And this is going to be the background for when the image opens up, as well as the close, next, and previous, and the loading GIFs. So we need to go ahead and select all of these images. You can do that by clicking the first one and then holding the Shift key down and clicking the last one. And I need to move these images into my main image folder, just like that. And if it says they already exist here, it's because you moved all of the sample images over, and that's perfectly fine. We can just go ahead and click yes here, and just as long as those images have been moved over into that folder. So you should now be able to look in your images folder and you should see these 5 lightbox images there. So now we've gone ahead and we've moved everything we need from the lightbox gallery folder into our site. Now, just like before, there's a text file right here that is going to have instructions for actually setting up the gallery. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and again you can see there's just several steps here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up my About page, because that's the page that I'm going to go ahead and add the gallery to. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove these sample images that we had inside of the the page, because we're going to use a few other images with our gallery. And I'm going to go ahead here and click, let's say, in between the first and second paragraphs here, and just hit enter to give myself an empty line. When I go into code view, you should see that's the location of that empty line right there, and that's actually where I want to put our gallery. And again, you can put it wherever you want. That's just where I've chosen to place it. Now we're going to go ahead and come in here into the lightbox text, code text here, and you're going to see the first thing that you need to do is you need to create a link to the jQuery library and the lightbox.js. And again, the jQuery, we've already added that file over into our JS folder, and we moved our lightbox script over as well. And what we want to do now is go ahead and look in our About section. And just like before, we're going to look in the head section of the document. And in the head section of the document, I can see that jQuery is already set up here. So I don't need to move this code. But I do need to add this script here for the lightbox. So I'm going to right click on that and click copy and come back into my About page. Now remember, your About page was created based on the template. And remember, when you're in your template, there are 2 different types of regions. There are template regions like this area right here that are locked. They're controlled by the template. And then there are these editable regions where you can customize the particular page. Now in this case, we can't actually add this script directly in or directly at the top of our head section where the rest of our scripts are. And again, you can see the yellow indicates that that's an area that's been locked by the template. But you can see here, if I scroll down just a little bit, begin editable, doc title, and this is the range inside of the head section that you can actually customize for the page. We wouldn't want to include this lightbox script in the template because the lightbox is only going to be used on this one page. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this lightbox script to the editable region inside of my template. I'll go ahead and paste that on in there. And we've got that, and I'm going to hit enter because we've got a couple more things we need to do here. Come back here to my instructions. The second step is to create a link to the style sheet for this element. And again, this is very similar to setting up the banner slider. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Come into the About section, and I'm going to paste that in. The only important point here is actually the order of things. You want to make sure that jQuery always comes before whatever kind of plugin uses it, in this case the lightbox. So I want to make sure jQuery is higher in the page than this lightbox. And I want to make sure that the style sheet link comes after the plugin that actually accesses that. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit enter a couple times to give myself a little bit more space and come back into my instructions. Then we need to go ahead and add the code to the head section that's actually going to activate the gallery. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Come back in here and paste this in. And that's all we're going to have to do in the head section. Only other thing that I will make mention of is that right now, or before, you saw we highlighted this entire region here, and then we hit a quotation mark and we browsed for that item. In this case, the source attribute here is pointing to the correct folder. It's pointing to the JavaScript folder. And in the case of the CSS style sheet, it's pointing to the CSS file in the lightbox. But if you chose to put that in a different location, which isn't a problem, you're going to need to go ahead and highlight both of these, type a quote, use the pick URL option, and make sure you select the correct path. And you could do that same thing for this as well. So you need to make sure that you're always pointing to the correct folder and the correct file. And again, you're going to notice I made the mistake I make just a whole lot. I forgot to put my closing quotation mark in there and there. Need to make sure I get those closing quotes. We'll go ahead and save that. So now we're set up and ready to go ahead and come back in here to this empty paragraph line where we're actually going to add the images. We're actually going to add the lightbox itself. So let's come back in here to our instruction code here, and you can see here is the code that you need to add to set up the gallery. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and again this is just a div with the ID gallery. And then I'm going to go ahead and highlight that blank line, just has a non-breaking space inside of it. And actually I'm going to hit enter a few times just to give myself some space here. And I'm going to go ahead and, whoops, that didn't work. I need to actually go back in here and copy this. And then highlight that and paste that code in there. Highlight it and tab it over. Now, looking at this code here, you're going to see that there are two lines inside of this gallery div. There is an anchor tag line and there's an image tag line. And you can see the href and the source targets here just have this generic information here. This first line is a link to the actual image. The second line should contain a link to the thumbnail for the image. Now, when you're doing image galleries, you're oftentimes going to have a thumbnail, and then you're going to have the full size of the image. And there are several different ways to get a thumbnail. One is you can use a program like Photoshop or Fireworks to create a custom thumbnail for every image, either by selecting a piece of it or resizing it or setting up something like that. Sometimes you can use a batch process for that to do a number of images all at once, and sometimes you'll want to do them individually. Creating thumbnails in that way is going to give you the highest quality thumbnail. It's going to give you the nicest looking thumbnail. Another way to do it is to use the exact same image for both the full size and the thumbnail. And then in your HTML or your CSS, specify a different width and height for the thumbnail. So in this case, I'm resizing it in the HTML. We could also do that in CSS, but I'm doing it in this plugin in the HTML. So you can again either use the same image or you can use a different custom image. If you're using a custom image, if you decide to make your own thumbnails and they're sized exactly the way you want, you're going to want to remove this width and height parameter here. You're only going to need this if you're using the same image for both your thumbnail and the full size version, and you just want the browser to resize the thumbnail. So I'm going to go ahead here and highlight this whole line here, and again this is the href to the actual image. I'm going to type a quotation mark and do pick URL. I'm going to go up and go into my images folder. Now, one thing that we haven't done so far is we haven't really looked through a lot of these images that are in here. But you're going to see some small images here, and you can go ahead and look and find the exact image that you want to go ahead and use. I'm just going to go ahead and select small 1 there. And then I got to remember to type my closing quotation mark. And I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same image for the thumbnail here. Highlight that, type a quote, do pick URL, go into my images folder, and in this case you can see we actually can see the actual images here. And there's small 1. I'll go ahead and put that in there and type a closing quotation mark. And let's go ahead and save this, and let's take a look at this in design view. And you should see your image there. It now has this little border put around it with the CSS. And let's go ahead and test this to make sure that everything is working okay. I'm going to go to the File menu, select Preview and Browser, select Google Chrome, and there's my image. I'll go ahead and click on it, and there we go. And that image is actually pretty small, so I'm actually going to go ahead and change that. Let's go ahead here, and you can see the 3 images that I've used here. Let's go ahead and go back into code, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight the second one for the image and type a quote and pick URL, and there we go. Those are the images that I'm looking for. So we'll go ahead and select small 7 there, and since I sequentially numbered these the same, I'm just going to change that. That should give us a little larger image. So I'm going to use small 7. Go into design view here, and let's go ahead and preview this in a browser. And whoop, you got a problem there. Let's go ahead and see what the problem exactly is with this. And you can see there's my ever-present problem forgetting to close my quotation mark. Save that, come back into design view. Now the image is there. And now let's try that. And that's still a pretty small image, but you get the point as to how that's going to work there. And let's go ahead and do a few other images that are in here. Come back into my code view, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these 2 lines here, not the div, but just the 2 lines, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself some extra space there, and I'm going to paste that in once, paste it in twice, and then I'm going to go ahead and do each of these, pick URL, and we'll do small 8 here. I'm sorry, you know what I used? G1, G2, and G3. So we'll do G1 there. That'll give me a better image. And I'm going to close my quotation mark. highlight that, and again do G1. And going to go ahead and do G2 right here. Do G2 again. Got to close my quotation marks. I don't know how I got into that terrible habit of not closing my quotes, but don't let yourself get into that habit. And then we'll go ahead and do G3. Close my quote. The good thing, though, is that if you find you pick up a habit like that, you probably know what you did wrong. I can almost guess that if I'm having a problem on my page, it's I forgot a quotation mark somewhere. Other people, it may be closing brackets or closing slashes or something like that. You just got to kind of learn yourself. Save that. Let's go into design view, and there are my 3 images there. And when I go ahead and go into File, Preview in Browser, let's try this in a different browser. I'll try Internet Explorer here. Again, you got to click this Allow, Block Content, depending on your security settings. And there I go. There is my image gallery. And my computer is being a little bit slow here. Let's go ahead and click another image there. There we go. And my previous button, that middle image there is giving me trouble. I'm going to go back and reset that one. Actually, let's go ahead and that might just be Internet Explorer acting up on me. Let's try this in Chrome. Nope, got the same problem there. Okay, so let's look at that. Code here. Oh, you see what my problem is? I forgot a closing quotation mark. Save that. And let's go ahead and preview that. Internet Explorer now. I got my first image coming up, and I'll do next. There's my second image, and I've got next and previous here. My third image. And with this plugin, you can either click in the background to close it, or you can click on the close button right here. You'll also notice you have some caption text here. The caption text, if we look in our HTML, is the title attribute that's right here. So you would just change the text that's right in here, and that will change the information that appears in the lightbox. So that's all there is to setting up this lightbox gallery. And again, a lot of this is going to be on just preparing your images and getting your thumbnails set up. After that, it's pretty straightforward. One other thing that I might mention to you at this point is I like to sequentially number my items. In this case, I didn't put them in here in order, but that way it's real easy for me just at a glance to look and see where I've got everything and to make sure that the path is correct. So sequentially numbering your images may work, whether it's actually giving them a name or just doing G1, G2, G3 like I have here is up to you, but think about your names as you go ahead and put them in. Well, we're all through with both the lightbox and the banner slider here. And we've added everything from these 2 folders that we're going to need for these 2 effects. So I'm going to delete these folders by right-clicking on them and selecting Delete. Right-click on the banner slider folder there and delete, and that'll just get rid of that extra stuff that we don't need in our site. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and set up the contact information form on the contact page. So I'll see you in the next video.